Hello, brothers and sisters. Today is July 5th, 2019, and I just wanted to tell you all that the dream the Lord gave me about a widespread panic, I do believe that the part about the concert did happen last night at the Capitol in Washington on the 4th of July, but the widespread panic, I believe, is still about to happen. I thought that because the name of the band at the concert in the dream, because it was widespread panic, that the Lord was saying that it would happen last night at the Capitol 4th concert. But I understand more now that that was a time marker for just before the widespread panic event. And I just wanted to apologize to everyone and tell you all that I never want to cause anyone to stumble or to speak the things that the Lord has shown me incorrectly. His ways are so far above ours, and sometimes it's hard to understand it all. But in this dream I had, my friend Brad, who is the dead in Christ, was supposed to be going with me to this widespread panic concert, and I knew it was my birthday. My parents went to pick him up at the airport to bring him to our house, but they got home and Brad wasn't with them, and I was really upset, and I asked them where he was, and they just told me that they had dropped him off at Yellowstone Park at the campground. And I was even more upset when they told me this. Then suddenly Brad was with me and my son in my room, and Brad and my son were touching each other's face and smiling, and it was like they were meeting each other for the first time. And Brad and I never ended up going to the widespread panic concert. In this dream, the events that happen don't seem to be in any particular order, so that's another reason it's hard to understand it completely. But Brad being dropped off at Yellowstone Park and then suddenly being with my son and I does seem to be pointing to the widespread panic, possibly meaning something happening with Yellowstone. And then maybe Brad showing up right after that and being reunited with my son and I might represent the dead in Christ, and we who are alive and remain in Christ being raptured. I'm not sure. But California has just had a bigger earthquake, and they've had a lot of aftershocks since then. And this bigger earthquake happened yesterday on the 4th of July in California. And today, Mary Greeley News Channel just came out with a video about Yellowstone, and I'm just going to play it now for you all.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mary with Mary Greeley News. I'm glad you're here with me. I hope everyone had a wonderful and safe 4th of July Independence Day yesterday. Here's an update what's going on with Yellowstone. Early this morning, they messed with the settings for the different spectrograms and for the seismometers. You will notice here on the thumbnails all kinds of activity. And then suddenly, everything is changed. Yeah, nothing changed there at the park. No, USBS is messing with the settings once again. Up there in Canada, they had another earthquake, actually two more, that affected the park. A 4.6. It had a depth of 10 kilometers. And then also a 5.6, a depth of 5.1 kilometers. Now, this is transferring energy down towards the Juan de Fuca fault line. This is subduction from the North American plate and the Pacific plate. Pacific plate going underneath the North American plate. And right down here, yep, see how the fault line moved towards the south? A little concerning. As many of you found out, the earthquake there by Ridgecrest. Many people were not earthquake prepared. Cabinets, water heater, cupboards, shelving, things in cupboards shot out as if bullets across the rooms. They had 2 house fires. Last I heard, there was a total of 5 fires in this area. Water lines, gas lines broke, etc. Heavy damage to one church in one neighborhood in this area. There was 12 to 15 homes with moderate to severe damage. This was the strongest earthquake Southern California has had in 20 years. This area near China Lake was the strongest in over 100 years. In the last 24 hours, there's been 201 earthquakes, and that was a magnitude 2.5 or greater. Now, for all earthquakes, in the last 7 days, there's been almost 1,000. Yeah, 1,000. This is halfway between the San Andreas Fault and Las Vegas. They are warning that possibly a much larger earthquake could be coming to Southern California. The larger earthquakes that occurred in this area, yeah, it did stir up the caldera there at Yellowstone. And this is what I was saying about how they changed the settings for the earthquakes. We'll go back another 4 hours and you'll see the time when they did that. And go back another 4 hours. Right there. See that? And I'll go back another 2 hours. Now, what this was showing here at Maple Creek was that the magma had risen up, and just my own personal opinion, because of what I was seeing, the magma chamber, the upper magma chamber, is about 3 miles under the ground from where everyone is walking. It's currently 8:15 Mountain Time, 9:15 a.m. Central Daylight Time. But from what I was seeing, if the magma chamber, which usually shows way down here at the bottom of the chart, now this is Yellowstone Lake, which they are providing us. This magma chamber is 3 miles way down here. And what I was seeing, that magma had come up about halfway up. That would mean, common sense, that the magma had risen 1.5 miles. Yeah, that's rather shocking. I know they watch my videos, and they probably realize that I was seeing some dramatic, shocking, frightening changes, and it's always about money, the stock market, etc. Again, this is Yellowstone Lake. So what they did was change the settings. Here you can see they changed the settings. We got the numbers on the side. I know just by looking at it what happened. You can see that the park there at Yellowstone Lake, it took a breath. It went up and down, but they changed it so much that you can't see this uplift that occurred. Now this is the last 7 days. And then this is the last 30 days. Generally we could see all the shaking, all the dots, but they cranked it up so high, yeah, you won't be able to see that. Now, my video that I did about the park yesterday, I asked the question, how many people are at the park on any given day? And the response I got was up to about 30,000 people a day are at the park. And the reason I asked that is there's been other volcanoes in the past that erupted unexpectedly. The magma had traveled up from the mantle through the plume in a matter of just about 10 minutes. And people had been injured. One of those volcanoes was in Japan, and the other one, I believe, was in South America. They know that Yellowstone, the ash would go out, of course, across the United States. Toxic gases, etc., heavy ash, about 500 miles. I had misquoted myself yesterday saying the blast radius was about 500 miles, but actually it's about 100 miles, where everyone within that 100 miles would be instantly vaporized. 100 miles vaporized. So that's why I was asking how many people on any given day are at the park. And several people said about 30,000 people would be instantly vaporized. Yeah, there's no way, even if there was precursor earthquakes, they would get out in time. They figure, what do they charge now to go to Yellowstone? Supposedly, we got an entrance fee of $25 per vehicle.
My tank's on E, but I need to get to work. The earning app lets me access
Sorry,
up to
guys.
$100 instantly from my paycheck without any fee.
So that's about $750,000 a day that this park is bringing in. Like I said, it's all about the money, and they want the tourists to keep coming in. That's why they keep saying everything's fine, don't worry about it, etc. Yeah, then you got the businesses that would lose money. You got property owners would lose value, the stock market, etc. Yeah, it's all about the money. $750,000 they're bringing in at least a day just from that $25 that they charge to enter the park. So here's that first earthquake. Now this is for Hecken Lake, and I showed you Maple Creek yesterday, and this is that earthquake that occurred and came in and affected Yellowstone. Okay, you can see the magma, the hot gases that came up at the top. Now this would be noise, possibly landslides or boats, who knows. But the deeper ones, I talked about this. Yeah, this is the earthquake, and this is Hecken Lake. This is where they had that earthquake in 1954, and you can see the magma. Okay, so we got magma. Let me go back up here. That's about 3 miles under the ground. This is the rim, so it could be a little bit shallower here at the rim. And we'll go back over here. We got noise. Let me come down a little bit. Oops, went down too far. Let me go back up to that earthquake. Okay. We got drum beats. See that? So if that magma is 3 miles under the ground, okay, I'll come down here. And it suddenly came up because of this disturbance. See how high that magma came up and the hot gases? See that? Up here would be the surface. Down here would be the magma. 3 miles down. You can just calculate. Halfway up would be 1.5 miles. And we'll come back over here. See that? Let me go back up here. And I'll go along this line here. And we'll come back over here. Now this is the first earthquake that occurred there in Canada that shook up the caldera. It seemed to affect Maple Creek more. Look at all the gases and the heat that came up when this caldera was stirred up because of that first earthquake, which was, a 6.2 there in Canada. Look at that heat. This is why they changed the settings. All right. I talked about how I hoped it settled down. See the line of melt? Because of the heat coming up, how it affected Hecken Lake. Yeah, very concerning. 30,000 people a day, and they don't want that tourism for the hotels, the restaurants. Yeah, they don't want that money to stop. Oops. So let's look at what's going on a little bit earlier. We got an earthquake here. I'm not sure where that one's at. Okay, so we'll come down. Look at this other activity. Yeah, you can see the line of melt, how it rose up. Now this is melted rock, and not all melted rock melts at the same temperature. They used to think granite would melt at a higher temperature, and then they found out that it actually can melt at a lower temperature. Oops. Keep going off my line. All right, then we got another earthquake down here. And let's look at the wave. Look at that. The time, I wonder if they even reported it. Okay, 11:18. No, they haven't. There's nothing between the 3rd and the 5th. And this was on the 4th, I believe. All right, we'll go back to the signature. And we'll come down. There's the date, 7/4, 11 o'clock line. Let me pull this down again. Yeah, 11:17, 11:18. And then we got the signature. Now this is the 6.4 that they had there at Ridgecrest. They're in Southern California. Yeah, look how it stirred it all up. Again, this is Hicken Lake. And I'll do Maple Creek for you. Oops, where was that? Look at that. Look at the heat. Okay, so we got magma 3 miles under the ground. And we got the heat that went almost all the way up to the surface. We definitely had an increase in the different sulfur dioxide, etc. People, I told you yesterday, people probably definitely notice an increase in smell of rotten eggs. Everything is absolutely fine. Magma has a natural buoyancy, kind of like a beach ball, holding it under the water. That air just naturally makes that beach ball rise, and magma, when it's shook up, it does the same thing. Yeah, this is that earthquake in Southern California. All right, we'll come down to what's more recently showing. And let me pull this down. This is the recent one in, well, let me look at this one. Here we got the recent one in Canada, Bella Bella. I pulled it up a little bit. All right, so we got the P wave that came in first, and then the S wave, which came in second. Look at that. I'm going to pull this up. We got the time down here, but I want to pull this up so you can see the gases. And, of course, the heat. See the spikes in the heat? Drum beats. Boom, 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 boom. We got another little one here. Come over. Back down over here. And this little earthquake. And then we got another earthquake. Now I'm jumping around here. It's hard for me to keep it on the line. Okay. There we go. Again, Hicken Lake. Hard to believe I've been covering Yellowstone for 7 years. And then it settled down. I hope, yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right, Maple Creek, you can see right here. This is where they changed the settings. Let me go to the, see that? Okay. Figure the magma is 3 miles under the ground, and it came up at least 1.5 miles, which created the melt for the pockets. And then, bam, they changed it. But, let me pull this over. Okay, so they changed the settings, but you can see here, let's remember this. We have this line of melt. This is what it actually looks like, but they changed the settings. Look at that. And, yeah, so you can't really tell what's going on. We got an earthquake here. And we'll come down. This is more recent. It's actually way up here, the heat. But because the way they changed it, we get a false indication of how deep that melt is. This is the P wave of that earthquake there in Canada, and then the S wave came in. Let me go here. Yeah, yeah, fake. So because we caught them in the act of changing the settings, we will know that this should be all red, and that the magma has increased, risen up probably 1.5 miles, and now it's only 1.5 miles under the ground. Can you imagine how red that would be if they didn't change the settings? This is what it's most recently showing when I was downloading the files. Look at that. And the heat. I mean, that must be a really, look at that, the heat. We'll go back up here so you can, look at that. The heat that's risen. Yeah. They don't want to lose that money, do they? And they don't give a rat's you know what about the safety of people. Everything's censored. The news is censored. Do we have road melt? Have people noticed the heat coming up from the ground? And look at that, all the way up there. Yeah, the increase in the fumes. Look at that, the heat all the way up to the top. Again, this is Maple Creek. Look at that. Okay, so halfway would be like 1.5 miles. Yeah, look at that. Liars, liars, pants on fire. Yeah, they don't want you to see what's going on. There's Moose Creek. That's that earthquake, the first one that came in at Bella Bella. And I've talked about how the wave of the energy from these earthquakes in Alaska, oops, I didn't want to do that. When they're directed towards Yellowstone, how it does affect the caldera. No transparency for USBS, is there? We got an earthquake right there, which is we got the 30 line, 1351. That would be somewhere along there. Again, this is Maple Creek. Yeah, and they screwed with the settings. Yeah, I like the comment someone made about M. Poland, or Mike P., they said, how he was probably more interested in partying than actually protecting people and getting the information out. This white area is Ear Spring. You can see it's puffing away. This little black square, that's Beehive. Yeah, and they like to interrupt the camera a lot when they don't want you to see things that are going on. They don't zoom in on the river too much back over here. I always use this line of little trees to look for Ear Spring, which they're not showing right now. The spectrogram for Grant, now that's on the western side of Yellowstone Lake that they are providing us. There is currently no wind, it says, so the camera should not be shaking at all. And I've noticed the steam, they mess with the coloring, the contrast of the camera. But I noticed the steam is starting to darken up again. See the steam over here? That's coming from Ear Spring. Over here on the right. Today's date in numbers is 186. So this is behind by 2 days. Not the normal 1 day. Yeah, why are they not showing us the current one? Again, this is Grant. So we would not see the effects of these earthquakes in Southern California or up there in Canada. Not until it gets to 185. There's the monitor for Norris Junction. Steamboat Geyser went off yesterday. 5 days and 11 hours since its last eruption. Remember last month it broke records of what, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, 7 eruptions. Fairly long eruption. You can see it there. An hour and a half maybe it went off. They don't report the minor eruptions. They only report major eruptions. You can see here it says that it started out with a minor, and let's see, 2050 from steerage after a very strong single minor eruption at 2042. Easily heard in the parking lot upon arrival. North vent jetting and bursting continuous water well above the trees with occasional vertical sloshes. A few times it quieted and returned with a fine spray briefly. North vent often more enthusiastic then. Walked the loop at 6:30 on return at 7, both vents in steady wet steam and significantly quieter. Okay, the tilt meter for Grant, you can see here. This is the dots I'm talking about. The 2 earthquakes, see we got dots way up and way down. Last 7 days, see how they change it? Yeah. And they got this set at 2 microradians. And then the last 30 days, yeah, they changed that one. Each dot is an earthquake that causes uplift. And you can see we got boom, 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 and then boom. So again, Grant for the last 30 days, and then the last 7 days. Tilt meter for Yellowstone Lake, yeah, they mess with the settings. Look at that jump from the 22nd. Top is north, bottom is east. Yeah, and see that? Look at that. The last 7 days, look at that. Yeah, that's significant. Like I said, the magma's come up, and then this is what they're tracking from 2008. I give very little faith in this. Highest uplift since they started tracking it in 2008 in the easterly direction. Again, Yellowstone Lake, yeah, they messed with the settings. Okay, and Madison River for the last 7 days. Yeah, like you can look at that. We got a dot way over here. Last 7 days, and they set this at 2 microradians. They changed that too. And then the last 30 days. Yeah. Yeah, they changed the settings. Norris Junction. Yeah, for me covering this for the last 7 years, yeah, I've learned a lot about Yellowstone supervolcano, and I know their tricks. Last 7 days, and then the last 30 days, yeah, they just hate me. Like I care. Got a dot way over here, and that's a new dot, you can tell by the coloring. Yeah. Remember, they're measuring the deformation that occurs under the ground. This is one of the few volcanoes that they are doing that. So X is north, Y is east. And those of you along Washington and Oregon, you need to be prepared. Don't have things shooting out of your cupboards. Have gas explosions because you never bothered to strap down your water heater. Put a wrench out there to turn off your gas lines. Now this should be for everybody everywhere. But yeah, you're capable of having a magnitude 9 or greater earthquake along the west coast. Yeah, they moved the camera. Earthquakes for Yellowstone. In the area of the park, maybe 5 or 6 magnitude would be the largest supposedly that they would have because the ground is already brittle. And the earthquake would pop before it got any larger. And earthquakes outside of the park would be larger than inside the park, but because of the magma chamber and for how brittle the ground already is from the uplift. See how it's shaking? Yeah, and there's no wind. So that's a minor earthquake that's shaking that camera. Anyways, yeah, within 100 miles, everyone would be vaporized. 500 miles, you get probably 3 feet of ash. And magma can come up from any volcano within 10 minutes with no warning. And they just want to censor stuff. So thank you for your support. Please subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed because YouTube.
Okay, so I just wanted to play that for you all, brothers and sisters. And I also wanted to mention that I believe it was last night, Sister Gigi posted a vision that she had of seeing a beehive with bees coming out of it. And right there at Yellowstone is the Beehive Geyser. So maybe that's something we're supposed to keep an eye on as an indicator. So I just wanted to share this with you all, brothers and sisters. And just keep looking up because Jesus is coming and he's coming just in time. I love you all.